Today, we got another testimonial video for y'all. I'm joined by my good friend and fellow Product Gym member, Larissa Nguyen. Larissa, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. It's a little cold out here in New York, but otherwise, going great. Wish we could go back to that 70-degree weather from last week, though.
Oh man, tell me about it. Tell me about it. I'm gonna turn off my heater right here so we can make for better audio. Uh okay, so so you've recently just landed your product manager offer. You have a computer science degree from Yale. I think a lot of people, and you have the product manager title, so I think a lot of people naturally assume that this was easy for you. But what was job hunting like for you in this market,
Oh
and what were the
gosh.
biggest challenges?
It was especially grueling, I think, for background here. I was passively looking starting in like September, October, started seriously looking in December. Um, for context, right now it's like March 2024. And I just landed my first offer. This was, I think, job number 50 that I applied to, right? And at this point, I've applied to maybe 300 different jobs, a little more than that. But honestly, the interviewing process has been difficult. Um, it's just been like such a grind to put in application after application and get in rejection after rejection. There's been like ups and downs. There was periods in say December where I was getting like, you know, 10 in mails from different recruiters during the entire month. And then there were dry months like February where I just didn't have any in mails at all, any leads. And honestly, it's a rough emotional experience. And I'm so glad I had Product Gym and other members of the cohort to be able to be like, no, 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 get back to work. We need to keep doing this, keep going at it.
Yeah, oh man, I can't even imagine. I mean, I think the past year, 2023 and 2024, the mental toughness, res the resiliency has really been tested with people to the max. I mean, what
Yeah,
did you do to really stay sane? Because it's actually hard to, interviewing, you're putting on a show, right? And
yeah.
like, how did you go from rejection to rejection, and then ultimately, like, you still have to put on a big cherry smile and go through like interview after interview after interview?
I mean, you saw this firsthand. I was constantly in the gym. So just like being able to find things outside of PM job search where I was like, okay, I can feel valued and give myself goals as a human being and still feel like, okay, I might not be getting this job, but I'm still achieving things. I'm capable of achieving things. So whether that was like gains in the gym or got back into dancing, some of my hobbies, things of that nature, it's been really, really good for me. But more than anything, it's mostly just like my friends and fellow PG members being like, yo, Larissa, we're all in this together. Like, I know it's not personal. I know these rejections aren't personal. And it was really frustrating. I'd say my biggest challenge to bounce back from was in a singular week, I got to the final round of two different startups that I was really excited. And they were like, you're about to be like our first product person or a major product lead on the team. Sorry, our budget's been cut. Sorry, like we're restructuring as a startup, or we're pushing the hiring down indefinitely. Um, and I felt that I was so close just to hear both of those rejections. It was really tough.
What do you think would have been worse, like locking down that offer and getting laid off like 2 or 3 months later, since they're at the tail end of their runway, or hearing that, doing all of that work, but ultimately going off to the next job opportunity?
I don't know. My bank account would probably say differently, but uh, I'm glad I stuck to the job search.
Okay, so how many interviews were you how many interviews were you averaging a week before you started working with Product Gym versus after you started working with Product Gym?
For product gym, I was maybe averaging like one every 2 to 3 weeks, right? When I started working with product gym, it was easily averaging 3 to 4 weeks, 3 to 4 a week. And oftentimes, like there were some weeks when I was hitting like 5 to 7. I know there's some other members of product gym that are hitting above that, but I knew, what was easy for me to balance. And so I kept it around 5.
Oh, that's crazy. So you practically, I think I mean, if you're going from so I think you've legitimately probably like 5x your weekly interview count. So that definitely took a lot of energy out of you. I think interviewing is so energy intensive because every single
Yeah.
one is like they don't care that you've done 3 interviews or 4 interviews that day or that week. You know, they
Yeah.
still expect you to bring your A game to each and every one. And
Yeah.
every single round too. It's like you could have multiple stakeholders per company. And if like your energy is very low at the end, at like, stakeholder number 4, and they're like,
Yep.
maybe for you guys it was different, but when she was talking to me, I just kind of felt like she didn't want to work here. Uh so it's
Yeah.
like even within the rounds, there you have multiple mini rounds, right? Uh
Yeah. Especially
what
for the panel interviews.
panel interviews, what we call the recruiting gang initiation, where they have like 6 people just go out there and ambush you categorically.
Yep.
Um, look, what led you to go ahead and start looking for help, uh, instead of like continuing this thing on yourself?
Well, I knew myself, and if it were just up to me, job searching, I'd be alone in my room at my home office desk all day. And I knew that I needed other people in it with me to keep me going and keep me focused. I knew that there would be some lows, right? Like the ones I talked about. And so it just made sense for me. I was like, this price point is a no-brainer, right? I got not only the community, but also the sort of mindset shifts and the tips and advice from you, Rich, and the experience of like going through the curriculum, um, which is more in depth than what people can get from YouTube or from the great YouTube channel, right? Yeah, it was just a no-brainer for me. I was just like, I'm investing in my future and in me getting a job sooner. Yeah.
What other challenges did you encounter during this job hunt? Because you came out, you graduated from Yale with a computer science degree back in 2021, and there was no
Yeah.
time for the close to 1 decade that I've been in this racket. There was no hotter time to be
Yeah.
than 2020. Summer of 2021 was just
Yeah.
cash printing out of control, right? So you that
Which is why I was lucky to get an associate product management role straight out of college.
right. Compared to the batch that graduated, May of 2020. That was like
Yikes.
marching straight into the combat zone. You get like 1 year afterwards, you guys actually were, I think, much more fortunate. But like, what were the other challenges that you encountered that was like so different in 2023?
Yeah. I think in I think I was at a different point in my career, right? Being so early in my career at the time and going into the new grad cohort, at that time, everyone was looking for potential, right? Do you have the potential to do great? Right now, from what I'm seeing, and during this interview process, I've noticed that not only me, but well, not only some of the other folks, but also me in multiple interviews with multiple people, I've seen myself like down leveled, my experiences downgrade. What used to be able to easily get me a product management or senior product manager role now is what they're looking for in a product manager. So for all the same requirements, um, it's a lower level, or for the same exact role, there's higher requirements, right? There's a lot more expectation just because the job market right now is on the side of employers rather than employees.
How did you go ahead and deal with like companies we talked about this during
Yeah.
our sessions together is like how did you let me see if you retain any of the stuff like how did you manage that like obviously it's not personal it's hard to not feel that way even though you're telling yourself that logically but how did you navigate that challenge?
Um, truthfully, I mean, I had y'all to complain to and be like, yo, am I bugging? Like, like,
Why
and
me?
and you guys were able to come to me and be like, no, 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 Larissa, this is what we're seeing across the entire job board. I'm like, okay, cool, cool, cool. I'm not bugging. And yeah, it was frustrating, but at the same time, like I have years of my career left to navigate and grow. Um, and this is just one stepping stone. So helping, like having you guys to help me put it into perspective of, okay, like what is the stepping stone and what could it mean for me? And how can I be like, how can I change my perspective? Because this is not the end all be all, right? Like we are just one moment in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years, the market will be entirely different. And where I am in my career, hopefully will be entirely different.
Man. Okay. So, when did your job hunt kind of start? I think you started with us like in November, like the end, I think it was like Thanksgiving time.
Yeah.
Started with us. So like kind of December, January, February. Did you keep track of any metrics between like how many applications you fired off versus how many interviews you landed since you're such a
Okay.
Airtable fanatic?
So, don't be like me. And during like the holiday period, so between Thanksgiving and December, I just didn't track anything, right? But since January, I've been tracking everything. I can give you the metrics since January if that's helpful.
Let's do it.
All right. So, since January, I've had 330 applications. I'd estimate probably maybe like 50 applications throughout December. I really ramped up starting in January. Um, and then let me see. Of those, I've had estimated like 15 round ones, including the ones beforehand. Um, Let me see, about 5 to 7 round twos, um, and then 2 round threes, and then one close.
Jotting down these metrics. Oh, what would you do? Would you do anything like differently doing this thing again? Like if you had to like start over again when we were like back in like 2023 Q4 when we met, what would you have done differently, you think?
Uh, Relied more on the numbers game a lot sooner, right? I told you I only ramped up on the applications maybe end of January. I should have been doing that in December, and if not doing that, then doing a lot more to make sure that my narrative, my stories, my interview game was top tier, going into the new year.
What clicked for you? Because like obviously I think a lot of people know that, but like
Yeah.
what do you think stopped you from doing it? And what do you think like clicked for you internally where you're like, okay, I have to like change this approach?
Anxiety-based procrastination, right? I think it was after like the fifth or sixth company I was interviewing with. that it clicked to me like it really isn't personal. And by that point, I'd had enough experience with recruiters and actual interviews rather than just mock interviews that I was just like, okay, like, let's go. Like, I'm ready. I'm going into each interview, not like this could be the interview that ends my job search, but rather like I'm in a meeting um, on the job. Let's talk through and work through this problem together.
Would you recommend this program to anybody else that's struggling on the
Oh,
job hunt?
100%.
Yeah,
Everyone. Yeah,
yeah. Oh
without
man,
a doubt.
let's get it. Let's get it. Okay. Well, it's not over until it's over. I recommend for everybody that is on the job hunt to continue applying and to reach out if you guys need help, especially with resume reviews. But I think the other thing that I've advised everybody to do is no matter how much you like or don't like your job, that the only certainty that we have finishing off the year 2024 is that there's just going to be constant uncertainty. So you just don't know if like things are going to go ahead and get worse. So, like again, like you mentioned, I don't think you could put it any more clear that it's not personal, but like anything can happen in this market from now until the end of the year. So, with that said, Larissa, thank you so much for taking your time to go out there and do this with us. If you ever need help, you know how to contact us.
Thanks, Rich.